found this term called the estrobolome. And I was like, the estrobolome, wait, there's a set of bacteria that are specifically named and designated to break down estrogen. And then I went from there to, okay, well, what are those bacteria? Which one is what makes up the estrobolome? And I've never been able to find the set of bacteria. So so we can start everybody on the same part of the conversation, can you explain to everybody what the estrobolome is? And do you know what bacteria make it up?
Well, yes, let's dig in. So first of all, we are talking about a subset of the gut microbiome. So the gut microbiome, of course, has these trillions of different bacteria and viruses and fungi. They play all kinds of different roles. And I always think of it as like this really big factory. And there's one department, the estrobolome, and these are the microbes that interact with estrogen. And like I got really excited about the idea that the microbiome plays a role in increasing a lot of our hormone levels, and that maybe estrogen, there was an opportunity here. So I sat down one day and I actually said, I'm just going to start reading about the microbiome and menopause because I wanted to understand more about that particular phase. And first of all, you'll be very disappointed to know that it only took me one day to read every paper that was out there.
Oh, yeah.
There's really so much research left to be done here. There's so much untapped knowledge that it's an exciting time where these things are starting to, get a light shed on them. We have a lot more advocates for this kind of research. And I'm just really excited about what we're going to find out. But here's what we know today, which is not a whole lot. So the estrobolome is this group of microbes that are able to interact with estrogen. We know that there's a very specific enzyme that these strains carry, and that enzyme has the capability to kind of, at the end of the day, increase your free estrogen. So essentially, when your ovaries create estrogen, or your adrenal glands to a much smaller degree, this estrogen has two paths it can follow. One is that it's just sort of free circulating estrogen. The other is that it can become conjugated. And when it gets this conjugation added to it, it actually signals for it to go be secreted out of your body. And so that reduces your free estrogen. Well, on its way to being secreted out of your body, it passes past the gut microbiome. And in the microbiome, there are these microbes which can actually deconjugate and then make that estrogen now free circulating estrogen and send it back into free circulating estrogen. And so there's sort of this opportunity when these estrogen molecules that are conjugated go through the microbiome for them to get deconjugated and increase your circulating estrogen. And so maybe one of the most interesting things to know is that before we go through menopause, you could take the microbiome of a person and you could know with really high certainty, did this come from a man or did it come from a woman? And the reason you know whether it came from a man or woman is because of the estrobolome. After we go through menopause, we lose all these strains, and actually post-menopause, if you were to take that same microbiome from that person, you would not be able to tell if that was a man or a woman. In other words, we start to look more like men after we go through menopause because we lose the estrobolome. We lose these strains which are interacting with estrogen. And so there's this really cool opportunity to bring them back and sort of have a natural way to increase our estrogen. Okay, that was a lot, but that's...
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, my brain is going crazy. Okay, why would we lose them? My next book that I'm researching right now and really deep into is that I strongly believe that menopause actually is working for us, not against us. And there's a reason we live 42.5% of our life in post-menopause. So where I go with why would we lose these bacteria, why would we lose the estrobolome through menopause? Is it that they're not needed, or was there something we did in the menopausal process that made us kill them?
So fundamentally, I think the answer is we don't know. We don't know why we lose them. And I would say there's some really cool microbiome studies where people will go look at different populations around the world. And sometimes you see different patterns in different populations. So in the more like so-called advanced, communities like ours, there might be a different trending than if you were to go into the middle of the Amazon and look at how their microbiomes function. And so to answer your question, that's the kind of study that would help us answer that. Yeah. Because if you actually have things that you're doing that are causing that are different from your natural microbiome evolution through time, that's where you would start to see that difference. But no one's ever done that study.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if they just aren't needed. Because, but when you talk about conjugated and unconjugated, I want to go back to that idea. The way that I have explained it is that estrogen, everybody's all about, I need more estrogen. I need more estrogen. I'm losing estrogen. And we always talk about the hormone itself, but we don't talk about the fact that a hormone has to be reformatted in order for our cells to be able to use that. My understanding is the estrobolome is a part of that reformatting process so that we can, and it sounds like we go from conjugated to unconjugated. Is that right? To be able to be accessible to our cells.
Exactly. That's right. And so, and also just to reiterate, there could be the opposite set of reactions happening. They've just never been discovered before. But I think it's particularly interesting to think about these things which are able to, increase the circulating estrogen and do this deconjugation.